In a dramatic and deadly escalation of regional tensions, Iran has launched a barrage of missiles targeting a U.S. military base in the Middle East. The attack, which Iranian state media described as a revenge operation, has resulted in significant casualties and damage, and has pushed the already volatile U.S.-Iran relationship to the brink. This bold strike represents one of the most direct confrontations between the two nations in recent years, setting off alarm bells across the globe. The attack, precision, and power. According to early reports, dozens of missiles, believed to be surface-to-surface ballistic types, were fired in quick succession toward a heavily fortified American base. The strike occurred in the early hours, catching many personnel off guard. Explosions lit up the sky, with video footage showing fireballs and plumes of smoke rising from the base. Military sources have confirmed multiple fatalities and injuries among U.S. and allied forces. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, claimed responsibility for the attack, calling it retaliation for recent U.S. actions in the region. The strike was reportedly carried out with high-precision missiles, indicating careful planning and technological capability. Casualties and damage. While the exact number of casualties is still being confirmed, initial estimates suggest that at least a dozen military personnel have been killed, with many more wounded. The base suffered extensive structural damage, with aircraft, fuel depots, and ammunition stockpiles reportedly destroyed or severely impacted. Rescue operations are ongoing, and medical teams are working under extreme pressure to stabilize the injured. Families of the service members are being notified, and the Pentagon has promised full transparency as the situation unfolds. The base, a crucial strategic asset in the region, has been placed on high alert. Background: a brewing storm. This missile strike follows months of rising tensions between Iran and the United States, marked by proxy conflicts, cyber attacks, and strategic posturing across the Gulf. The immediate trigger for the strike is believed to be the recent assassination of a high-ranking Iranian military official by a U.S. drone strike, which Iran vowed would not go unanswered. Iran's supreme leader had warned that harsh revenge would be taken, and this missile attack appears to be the fulfillment of that promise. Previous confrontations, including the killing of General Qasem Soleimani in 2020, had already set a precedent for dangerous retaliation cycles. Global reactions and condemnations. The international community has reacted with deep concern. The United Nations has called for urgent restraint and dialogue, warning that further escalation could ignite a broader regional war. European Union leaders have urged both sides to de-escalate and return to diplomatic negotiations. U.S. President has convened the National Security Council for emergency discussions, condemning the attack as a cowardly act of aggression. The president stated, "We will hold Iran accountable for every life lost and every drop of American blood spilled." U.S. allies, including the UK, Israel, and NATO, have expressed full solidarity and are monitoring the situation closely. Iran's message: retaliation, not war. Iranian officials, while celebrating the operation domestically, have conveyed a message to international media that the strike was a form of proportional response rather than an act of war. "We do not seek war," said an Iranian foreign ministry spokesman. "But if we are attacked, we will defend ourselves fiercely." Iranian state television broadcast the missile launches as a patriotic victory, with thousands gathering in Tehran to show support for the action. Nationalist fervor has surged as the country unites behind its military leadership. Risk of broader conflict. Military analysts warn that this may not be the end. The U.S. is now under pressure to respond forcefully, especially in light of the casualties. The prospect of a retaliatory strike could draw other countries into a wider conflict, particularly in the already fragile Middle East. With military assets across Iraq, Syria, and the Persian Gulf on high alert, the risk of miscalculation is dangerously high. There is also concern that non-state actors, such as militias allied with Iran, could begin launching attacks against U.S. interests in Iraq, Lebanon, and beyond, potentially sparking a multi-front confrontation. Markets and oil prices react. The global financial markets reacted immediately to the news. Oil prices surged over 6% within hours of the attack, with investors fearing disruption to shipping routes in the Persian Gulf. Stock markets dipped in Asia and Europe, while defense stocks in the U.S. spiked. Economists warn that continued instability could drive up inflation and slow global recovery, especially if energy supplies are disrupted. Major airlines have rerouted flights to avoid Iranian and Iraqi airspace, adding to travel complications. Calls for diplomacy and de-escalation. Despite the fury and fear following the missile attack, there are growing voices calling for calm. The United Nations Secretary-General has urged both nations to step back from the edge, emphasizing the catastrophic consequences of full-scale war. Diplomatic back channels are reportedly being activated, with countries like Switzerland, Oman, and Qatar offering to mediate. However, the path to de-escalation is uncertain. With trust between Tehran and Washington at an all-time low, it will take extraordinary diplomatic effort to pull both sides back from open conflict. Conclusion: a dangerous crossroads. The Iranian missile attack on a U.S. base marks a grave moment in modern geopolitics. It is a deadly act of revenge that carries the potential to ignite a far more devastating war. As the world watches anxiously, leaders face a stark choice: pursue the dangerous path of retaliation or seek an urgent return to diplomacy. What happens next will shape not only the future of U.S.-Iran relations, but the stability of an entire region.